When the news broke out that a group of rioters had stormed the Capitol, social media was flooded with angry statements and memes. Many argued that if the crowd had been Black Lives Matter supporters, there would have been a different response from security. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright. Antoine, my friend, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
First of all, you and I have bonded over our love of little d democracy. That Capitol is a symbol to us of the promise of America. What was your reaction as you watched Trump supporters ransack that building that is held so sacred to many Americans?
Well, there's a lot to unpack in the suitcase, so I'll start with the first item. The reason these domestic terrorists gathered in Washington, D.C. is because on November 3rd, Black people, young people, and brown people in record fashion showed up to deliver a very handsome victory for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Fast forward the tape to Tuesday night. Once again, that same coalition in record historic fashion delivered a Jewish U.S. Senator from Georgia for the first time and a Black U.S. Senator from Georgia for the first time to give Democrats a majority in the U.S. Senate. That's the reason, part of the reason they were there. Second, when they made their way to the Capitol, you want to know how I felt? I felt disgusted. Lana, I'm 35, I'm Black, I'm from South Carolina, I'm fifth generation AME. I know a lot about protesting. That is in our DNA as Black people. That's who we are. That is how we have gotten to the point where we've been at the table and not on the menu in this country. But we do it peacefully. We do it the right way. We don't incite violence. We don't break windows of capitals. We don't go into offices and take pictures. We don't take selfies with cops. We don't take Confederate flags into buildings. That's not how you bring about change. And so what we saw yesterday was just a pure disgrace and embarrassment. And what's so frustrating, what made my oven so hot about the response from yesterday, you have people who are so fluent in privilege trying to justify what happened, calling it a protest. And can you imagine what the outrage would have been if those people looked like me, if they came from communities that look like mine, if they happened to be from a different nationality or background? Can you imagine what the process and what the response might be? And I'm old enough to remember, and I think you are too, Lana, when George Floyd and others were killed at the hands of law enforcement, and we knew about protests that were going to come about. You had more people in different kind of uniforms than we've ever seen in my life. And so there's no way in hell anybody can tell me that no one knew that this was going to happen. There's no way anyone can tell me that it was okay about what happened. And there's no one in this world can tell me that this is not a result of Donald Trump's right-wing, racial, red meat rhetoric, feeding them, motivating them, and giving them guidance and instruction to do just what they did yesterday.
Empirical evidence about how those different groups of protesters were in fact treated differently in roughly the same time period, all just taking place in a matter of months, even though it feels like it's been a minute, Antoine. But let's talk a little bit more about the language.
Lana, can I say one more thing to you? Reverend Warnock, the new U.S. Senator-elect from Georgia, was arrested for doing a prayer in the middle of the rotunda at the State House. Arrested. John Lewis, a member of Congress, and others have been arrested at the Capitol. I don't know if you remember this, but when they were debating the Affordable Care Act, there were people showing up in wheelchairs who all they wanted was health care that was accessible and affordable. They were arrested. And here you had people walking into the Capitol building yesterday. No mask. God knows what they had on them. And in some cases, there was Capitol Security who let them by. Can you imagine if that would have been one of our enemies trying to do some other kind of harm and damage to lawmakers who were in that building? Can you imagine what that could have been like? And can you imagine if they were Black? I mean, it would have been a bloody Wednesday in Washington, D.C. And that's why you see Black people so pissed off. And that's why you see us so angry. And that's why you see when these things happen, we call it the system hypocritical, because the system bends for others, but it breaks for us.
Let's talk about some of the reaction from lawmakers, especially those who have been siding with President Trump for years, even stoking the fire at times. What's your opinion on the words and actions that we've heard from some of them who have continued to back the president and his actions, or say that he's not culpable for this, and others who have taken the opposite approach, which has been to say that they've resigned or have decided to actually call out President Trump and hold him accountable?
Well, when we were younger, we would say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt. Well, to hell with all that. Words do matter. They matter and they hurt people. We see the number of people who were injured. We see the number of people who have died because of words from the president, and those actually who flirt and play footsie and cuddle with some of the same rhetoric that he does, because it all mattered and it all brought what we had yesterday to a head because of their rhetoric, because of their support over the past 4 years. And to everyone who conveniently want to resign, you know what? I'm going to roll my eyes at you. If I had an eye rolling emoji, I would put it on the screen. You know why? Using your last 2 weeks of paid vacation is totally different than resigning or thinking about your career and what's next for you, all because there's attention being drawn to something. We saw Trump call people, NFL football players who took a knee, by the way, who were just peacefully protesting, SOBs. We saw him say they're good people on both sides. When the looting starts, the shooting starts. Yesterday, he said, "We love you, we're proud of you." We've seen he and his supporters and some of his chief disciples use this coded language that is a kickstart for some people, and it forces people to sit in their living rooms or wherever they sit and behave like keyboard thugs and say whatever they want on the screen or on the internet, and then they get in person and they behave like this. You know what? I'm old enough to remember also, Lana, when you had black and white people gathered in Washington, D.C. because of what happened all across this country when a black man was killed at the hands of law enforcement. You know what the description was online by some of these same people who were fluent in privilege? They called them hoodlums. They called them thugs. Where's your mother? Where's your father? You should be home. You should be working. But yet we call, like the president's daughter did in the deleted tweet, we called these people yesterday, we call them patriots. That's hypocrisy. It's a bunch of BS. And that is so much of the problem why I have with some of these people who support Donald Trump. And I'm so thankful we defeated that type of agenda at the ballot box in November.
All right, Antoine, thank you.
Thank you.